My name's Pat Wileman. It was Northall in the days of long ago, and I used to live in a yard that was called Hallam Square. It was right almost at the top of the hill. I was born in 1942 and remember the yard vividly. There was 5 of us lived in this little tiny house. There was another brother, but he actually lived with my grandma. So there was 2 brothers and me, and we'd only got 1 bedroom and a big landing that a double bed had to fit on. So as small children, we all slept in the 1 double bed. Obviously, as I got a little bit older, I remember having a tiny bed in my mum and dad's room. So there was as much room upstairs as there was downstairs. So there was only 1 double bedroom and the landing, as we called it. And downstairs there was just 1 room and then a huge pantry larder. And that was nearly as big as the area that we lived in. My father was a miner, and the coal delivery had to come through where we lived, and it was all thrown under the stairs. I mean, we couldn't live with that now, could we? So I remember Mum having to put sheets over the settee and the table when the coal merchants delivered the coal, and threw it under these stairs. And it was just like a little tiny scullery. There was a brown sink in there, but we hadn't got running water because the tap was actually in the yard where we used to have to go and fill the kettle or fill a bucket or whatever. And obviously in the winter, you know, you've got to boil a kettle of water before you could get any fresh water, because you have to pour it over the pipes to, you know, thaw them out. But so in our only room, we'll say, downstairs, I remember there being sort of a chair up the corner and a small settee and a table behind it where, of course, Mum used to do all her ironing and our meals and everything, washing up on there as well, you know. So times were quite hard. I don't suppose we appreciated it as children, but I know my mum worked from morning till night, you know, just looking after the family, as most people did in those days. And black-leaded grate, which she was absolutely ridiculous. This grate had to be black-leaded all the time, you know, and there was always a kettle hanging over it. Outside, there used to be the 1 tap in the yard that obviously everybody used. My recollection, I think there was sort of about 4 houses down one side and 2 or 3 down the opposite side to where we were, because then there was the wash house and like a row of toilets, which everybody had to use. Ours was the very last one in the yard on the left-hand side as you went in, and there was a little tiny outhouse type thing where the bath and everything was kept, and then there used to be a set of steps that actually brought you out in Welcome Street, opposite where the CAB is now. Used to be the parish rooms, and then we've got friends that lived up the yard at the side of the parish rooms in those days.
Can you remember what that yard was, at the side of the parish rooms?
No, I've just been talking to a girl whose parents kept it actually, but I can't remember what it was called, but she'd know it. No, I can't.
Going back to the wash house.
Oh yes, I remember. I think Mum's day, because everybody had a day, and I think Mum's day was Mondays, because I remember my grandma, her day was Tuesday in the yard that they lived at, but her Mum's day, I'm sure, was a Monday. And of course, if it rained on a Monday, you couldn't peg out on a Tuesday because someone else was using it, unless it was the couple that lived next door to us, they never had any children, so of course they hadn't got so much washing. So she was a dear, dear lady, and she's only recently died 3-4 years ago. And she was a lovely, lovely lady. And of course, if Mum hadn't got hers done on a Monday and it was a nice day on Tuesday, then she would say, "I'm not using those lines today, so you can use them," But I mean, it was a full day's job. I mean, because they used to have to 5 o'clock in the morning light the copper, and I mean, there's no machinery, dolly and tub and the washboard and things like that, So it was full day washing, starching, bluing as they used to have, and to be a full day's job. But the biggest nightmare was if it was a bad day when it was your wash day, because there'd be stuff draped all around this little tiny room that we lived in, Fortunately, none of us was asthmatic or anything, so, but it was, I remember Mum saying what a nightmare that was, if you couldn't get the washing dry.
Where were the lines?
The lines were across the yard. Yes, it was all across the line. Of course, you used to have to put those up as well in the morning, because they would all be, because it was like proper rope in those days, and they would all be kept in the wash house, and of course you didn't leave them out at night, you fetched them in when you fetched all your washing in, so they would be all across. So to be backwards and forwards fetching water to the wash house and filling this pan, that pan, the other pan up, or doing whatever. But yeah, there were hard times. Not particularly for us as children, but for our parents, there were hard times. I still know quite a few of the people that actually, I can remember some of the people that lived in the yard, and of course obviously they all moved out. There used to be a shop called Mrs Hunt's, and hers was right on the very front. Of course, when they pulled the yard down, they rebuilt her a shop, but she had another shop built. I'm not sure whether it wasn't the end one that's actually built there now. Just can't quite picture that.
What was her shop selling?
Sweets, confectionery mostly, And because I do vaguely remember, because I mean we had ration books till about 53, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I remember we always used to take our rations there, and occasionally she'd let us have them a bit earlier than before they were due. But of course then you've got longer to wait for the next lot, 2 ounces of sweets. I mean, it's unheard of these days, isn't it? So, but as I remember, and as I know these people, well, some of them even now, well, the children now, they were all very, very good neighbours. But the lady and the man next door to us, they were absolutely wonderful, because they hadn't got children, couldn't have children, that they found out later. So they were very good to us, very good to my mum. So, and then they moved up by, just up above the Blue Boar at Mansatcher Road. They lived there until they both passed away. But, so times were hard. But one of the things that I do vaguely remember is my dad had always got an allotment. So we'd all, and I think this is where my love of vegetables comes from, because we'd always got fresh vegetables. We got no money, but we'd got fresh vegetables. And because he had these pigs for Mr. Locke, whenever there was a pig slaughtered, there was always, a side of pig. And I remember, going and my dad cutting a slice off the pig in the scullery bit, and pantry bit really. So I suppose we were fortunate really, because we'd always got meat and we'd always got vegetables. No money, but and it's those things that you remember more than anything really. But I know my mum very often used to go and get a joint on a Saturday night from Tunbridge's, the butcher's. That's where the little is it called Daniel's? There's do cheaper sweets and chocolates and things now. Just up the Long Street. Is it Daniel's?
Congraves.
Congraves, is it? Yes, Congraves, yeah. and that used to be a butcher shop many years ago. And my mum used to get a joint, and then my dad would go out and bring loads of folks back, and the meat would be gone on Saturday night. Yeah, happy times for us as children, but must have been terribly, terribly hard.
Was there room to sit at the table, or...?
Yes, we did. Well, because you never heard of trays and things on your laps those days, but we did actually sit round the table, and then the settee was in front of the table, of course black leaded grey too, because all the cooking and then onto the table and that, but I remember Mum ironing on the table as well, and washing up. That was, I remember washing up. Used to have one of those like oilcloth tablecloths that used to be on there. We don't realise, do we?
You said you went to visit your nan when you moved.
My grandma, absolutely gorgeous lady. And she lived right by the church. There used to be two shops on the front. One was White House, the opticians. I can't remember what the other one was. And then we used to go through a big gate, and there was only the one house from the front. But then farther in there was, I suppose it was a workshop. I think the man might have been a carpenter, or I'm not sure. But he'd got this big workshop. Grandma's house was a big house. Walked in, and there was a passageway, and there was rooms to the left and the right, and it was 3 stories high. But her wash day was on a Tuesday. My grandpa was injured during the war, First World War, and he'd only got the use of one arm. He was shot straight through his arm. And but if you went on a Tuesday, there'd be newspapers on the table, and Grandpa would be cooking the dinner. Didn't matter who went, there was always dinner for whoever. And my grandma used to be across this wash house from morning till night, because her mum lived in the top story of the house. Of course, she had her washing as well, her bedclothes, but she used to wear the long black dresses and things. Dear lady. So my grandma would be across there 12 hours, and she'd just come back and have dinner, and then as soon as she'd eaten her dinner, had a cup of tea, she'd be back over there for the entire afternoon. But if ever you went to visit on a Tuesday, which was big market day in those days, which is still market day but not very big, you'd go in and Grandpa would say, if you want to see Grandma, where she is, and out you'd go and up the yard, and she'd have all these bowls of things, a bowl of blue and a bowl of starch, and I remember her having one of those washing machines, I don't know what you call them, where I used to paddle backwards and forwards. She was quite, I suppose that was quite advanced in those days, but she used to have that much washing. And the copper in the corner, and she'd be running with sweat